benefits of ad. So in this part of the lecture, let's start by talking about the benefits of the ad network for the advertisers. As you can see from the picture, the ad network has got a business relationship with many advertisers and many publishers, right? And it is also able to use the third-party cookies to track consumers, right? So because of that ability, it makes it possible for advertisers to target consumers based on their exhibited behavior, right? So this is sometimes what we also call remarketing, right? So this is an obvious advantage for an advertiser to use an ad network. In addition to tracking consumers based on their behavior, the ad network also makes it possible to target consumers based on what we discussed as contextual advertising or content-based advertising. So the idea there is that now the ad network, because it has got a tie-up with many publishers, it can create a segment of pages across publishers based on similarity of content, and then sell those impressions coming from those pages to advertisers. Take an example. Let us say that there is a Dick's Sporting Goods and they want to show their ads only on those content pages which is about some sports, right? And so what an ad network can do is that it can take content related to sports from across different publishers and tell Dick's Sporting Goods that you don't really need to worry about having a one-to-one tie-up with each of those publishers, right? To be able to show your ads across, to all of these publishers. What you can do is you can just have an arrangement with the ad network, and the ad network will do the work of aggregating similar content from across different publishers and selling those impressions to the advertiser, which in this case is Dick's Sporting Goods, right? Another thing is, another way in which the ad network adds value is it can create this segment of consumers based on their interests, right? So again, based on the third-party cookies, they're able to track consumers and see that which people read finance news or what people are in a particular location, and then sell impressions about people who read finance news to a certain advertiser who may be interested in such kinds of consumers, right? So these are the different ways in which the ad networks allow consumer or help in targeting different segments of consumers, and therefore they add value for the advertiser. And many examples of ad networks. Google Ads, of course, is the most prominent one that we'll be studying a lot in detail. But there are others, like Bing has got its own and Facebook has got its own as well. The idea here is that once you become proficient in the use of Google Ads and you understand the principles behind it, similar principles apply to other ad networks as well. Okay. Now, another way in which Google is very powerful is that it is not only an ad network, it is also a search engine, right? And so imagine that the consumer segments that can be created through tracking of consumers can also be used when you target those consumers in a search advertising campaign. So for example, think of the following situation, right? The third-party cookies have been used to track the kinds of sites that a consumer has visited. And so therefore, the Google Ads is able to create a segment of consumers based on their interests. Now, when an advertiser is implementing a search advertising campaign, they can ask that their ads should be shown not only when there is a matching of the keywords with the search query, but when this matching happens and this kind of a search query is being used by a consumer in a certain interest category, right? So you can see that an advertiser even while doing search advertising, can benefit from the fact that Google is also an ad network. Okay. Now, how can purchase of ads happen on the ad network, or another way, what is the pricing? How does this pricing work? So pricing on ad networks is typically very flexible. Okay, you can have a fixed price kind of a regime where the ad networks just specifies that, here is the cost of buying 1,000 impressions, which is also called CPM, or cost per 1,000 impressions. And you can buy as many impressions as you want on that basis. And sometimes for premium inventory especially, ad networks may not set a fixed price, but they may actually do auctions. Okay, and these auctions, winners can get that entire piece of segment of consumers, right? So now this pricing can or auctions can be on the basis of CPM or CPC, which is cost per click, or it can even be on the basis of CPA, or cost per action, right? So what is this cost per action? This is based on how many conversions can be tracked back to an ad click, right? So advertiser may say that I am not going to pay you on the basis of clicks on the ad. I would rather want to pay you on the basis of how many conversions happen on my site after somebody clicked through on the ad, right? So obviously the effort is to make this even more relevant for advertisers, because in the end, the value is created only when a conversion happens. And so if the advertiser can pay only when a conversion happens, it's great for the advertiser, right? However, this requires certain more technical issues to be dealt with. For example, if a conversion happens on a website, then some kind of a conversion tracking needs to be enabled, because the ad network should be able to see that once a conversion has happened on the website of the advertiser, then it needs to bill the advertiser, right? And if such a tracking mechanism is not established, then the ad network has got no way of billing this advertiser, right? And sometimes the advertisers are not willing to part with sensitive sales information. And that is why many times advertisers may not want to go with CPA kind of pricing. Rather, they would want to go with either CPM or CPC kind of pricing. Okay. Now, given that there is such a lot of flexibility, it is possible that sometimes for the same kind of an ad inventory, two advertisers are bidding using different metrics. So in the example that I'm showing you here, advertiser 1 bids on the basis of CPM, or cost per 1,000 impressions. So advertiser 1 says that I will pay the ad network $3 for every 1,000 impressions that I get, right? Advertiser 2, on the other hand, says that I will pay the ad network 75 cents, right, for every click that happens on my ads. Now, if these two advertisers are competing for the same premium ad inventory, how does an ad network decide who is the winner from among these two advertisers? And the difficulty, of course, you can see is the fact that one of them is bidding on the basis of CPM and the other one is bidding on the basis of CPC. So an apples to apples comparison is not possible in this situation, right? So the way that this conundrum is resolved is because of the fact that the ad network may have some historical data from these two advertisers. In this particular example, the historical data that is of use is the past click-through rate on the ads from advertiser 2, right? So let us say this advertiser 2 has this past click-through rate of 0.2%. This means that if 1,000 impressions of advertiser 2 are shown by the ad network, then this will result on an average it will result in 2 clicks. Now, since advertiser 2 has bid 75 cents per click, right, in this case, it is going to pay the ad network $1.50, right? And if that is the situation, then you can see that advertiser 1 is actually going to pay $3 for 1,000 impressions, whereas advertiser 2 is going to pay $1.5 for 1,000 impressions. So therefore, you can see that advertiser 1 actually is going to pay more to the ad network, and therefore advertiser 1 is going to win the auction, right? So this is kind of the idea, broad idea behind how a resolution is done in an auction where multiple advertisers may have chosen different metrics to put in their bids. Okay. Now, moving on, one thing to keep in mind is that therefore these display ads can be purchased in different ways. We already talked about different kinds of pricing, right? And so we'll tie it together here in this table. The first row is called the automated guaranteed kind of programmatic display ad purchase. So what this means is that one publisher in this case, and so there's no ad network here, the one publisher, or it can even be an ad network. The idea is that there's one party selling to another party, right? And the pricing is a fixed price that the selling party has already decided, right? And the ad inventory is reserved for the purchaser. So the purchaser has always commits to buying that ad inventory, and that is reserved for the purchaser. On the other hand, the second row talks to you about unreserved fixed rate. What this says is the seller of the ads fixes the price, okay, and the ads can be purchased by the purchaser at this fixed price, but it is unreserved, which means that they have not really committed to buying all the inventory that comes their way in this manner. They may choose not to buy it, and so this inventory can then be used for selling to others. After that, in third row, we see an approach which is called invitation-only auction. So now the participation column says 1 to few. The idea here is that there is one seller of this ad space, but there are few selected buyers, few selected advertisers that are allowed to actually put in their bids in an auction to see that who will win this ad space. Okay. Now, again, this is unreserved, of course, because you don't know upfront that who is going to win the auction. So depending upon the auction winner, one or the other advertiser may be able to show their ads out here, right? And the reason why invitation-only auctions are done is because there are many publishers with strong brands, and they may not want certain kind of ads to appear near their content, right? Because it may actually put their websites in a bad light. And therefore, to deal with that situation, such publishers may say that we only want to participate in invitation-only auctions where only certain kind of advertisers with certain kind of a brand value and certain kind of products and services are allowed to compete for this space on my website. And finally, we have in row 4, we have the open auction, which is a one-to-all kind of a situation where the selling party allows everyone to participate in the auction. Now, you can see that the seller has always been shown as 1. So this seller can either be an ad network or the seller can be a specific publisher. So both are possible. Okay. Now, moving on, the ecosystem of display advertising has evolved beyond the use of ad networks. And now, actually, there is another way to sell ads, sell and buy ads, which is through the ad exchange. So again, there are many examples of ad exchanges, like again Google's ad exchange and Microsoft's ad exchange. The idea here is that the ad networks allow targeting, of course, but typically you buy an audience by saying that I'm going to pay a certain price for, let us say, 100,000 consumers, 100,000 impressions that I want to buy, right? As an advertiser, you buy it that way, right? But so you can see that the ad network is going to make available these 100,000 impressions targeted in the way that you wanted, but 100,000 impressions where each impression costs you, or each 1,000 impressions cost you a certain amount of money, say $1 for 1,000 impressions. But among these 100,000 impressions of ads that you are showing, there may be certain consumers that are extremely valuable for an advertiser, because these consumers may in the past have purchased from this particular advertiser and have shown a high conversion rate. Whereas there may be certain other consumers who don't have much of a history, and the advertiser is not certain of the value that these consumers bring to the advertiser, right? So the advertiser really does not have the degrees of freedom to put in a different bid for each different consumer based on the value that this consumer might bring to the advertiser. This becomes possible when an ad exchange is used instead of an ad network. So the idea here is that individualized bids on a particular consumer can be done in an ad exchange. So really, the idea of an ad exchange is it becomes very, very real time. The way it works is that suppose I'm a consumer, I go and start consuming content from a newspaper's website. As soon as I put in a request for content from the web server of that particular newspaper, the web server also issues a request to the ad exchange saying that here is this guy who has come along and here's a chance to show an ad to this particular consumer. So the ad exchange will then auction the opportunity of showing an ad to me on its exchange, and many advertisers may bid on this opportunity. And the winner of the auction will then be given the chance to show an ad to me in real time. So you can see all of these decisions are happening while I am reading and consuming the content real time from a particular publisher site. So all of this auctioning on the ad exchange, the deciding the winner of the auction, and then asking the winner to send in their ad to be shown to the consumer, all of this process has to happen in a few milliseconds. There is no more time than that. And that is why ad exchange has really started to gain popularity after 2012 or so, when the bandwidth availability has generally improved and become much better, right? So this is the idea of the ad exchanges, right? Again, differentiate from the ad network, where even though an auction may happen, but this is not happening in real time as and when a consumer asks for content. This auction may happen in advance, and the winner may be decided in advance, and then that particular inventory may be allocated to that particular winner. Okay. Now, of course, since bidding is done on an ad exchange by the advertisers, the next logical question is that how does this bidding happen, right? So the big thing out here is that an advertiser is able to read their own previous cookie that they may have placed on the browser of this user. And therefore, the ad exchange, the advertising process, the bidding process allows for this information. And because of this ability, the advertiser can go back to its database that it has maintained about this user and pick up all this information about this user and use a prediction model to decide whether it should bid or not on this user. And if this user seems sufficiently valuable then how much should the advertiser bid, right? So specifically, the way that bids are given in an RTB, or RTB actually stands for real-time bidding. The way that this works is actually something that we have kind of seen before. The idea is to find the value of the click of this particular user who has come along and who the advertiser is bidding on, right? So let's look at this flow out here. Let's say that an impression for a particular user is announced. Okay. Now the advertiser's campaign is checked. Is there budget available on this campaign, right? Has the advertiser identified the particular user as a target, right? Based on interest, for example, or based on other kinds of profile information. And whether talking about frequency here, has the frequency capping for this particular user been reached or not for the day, right? If all of these conditions are fulfilled, then the advertiser uses a predictive algorithm and tries to predict the probability that the particular user, if they see the ad, what is the chance that they will convert on the website, right? So this means that what is the chance of clicking on the ad and then converting on the website. All of that is put together by this predictive algorithm, and then this is multiplied by the value of the conversion, right? So when you multiply those two terms together, it gives you the value of the click from this user, right? And based on this, now a bid can be submitted into the auction by the advertiser. Now, if the advertiser wins, then just like what we have discussed before, they don't pay the bid amount. This is a second price auction. So they pay 1 cent more based on the second highest bid, also accounting for the quality score kind of idea, right? And so if the bid won, then the advertiser gets to show their ads to this particular user. And whatever happened as a result of this bidding, that information is further stored in the database of the advertiser to therefore further improve the algorithm that they are using, right? So this is how the bid is decided real time in an ad exchange. Okay. Now, so you can see over time, because ad exchanges came in, it does not mean that the ad networks stop functioning, right? So they're also there. The ad exchanges are also there. And in addition, because there are so many different ways in which an advertiser can buy ads, and there are so many different ways in which a publisher can sell ads, it has become very complicated, right? So to help the advertisers, the DSPs have come up. So DSPs are demand side platforms. And to help the publishers, the SSPs have come up, which are the supply side platforms. And the idea of these services is basically they provide technology layers and automate many of these transactions that the advertisers and publishers may want to do. So here you can see in this picture out here that an advertiser can directly sell its inventory to the ad network, and the publisher may then directly buy from the ad network. Or the ad network may buy from the advertiser and put up its inventory for sale on the ad exchange, right? And of course, this ad network that I'm showing here may actually have a tie-up with many, many advertisers and put up its combined inventory for sale on the ad exchange. Right? The advertiser by itself can also use a DSP to bid on the ad exchange. So the DSP, the technology layer, actually is the layer where the bidding algorithm that I was just describing, that's where this bidding algorithm is housed, right? And the DSP, through the DSP, the advertiser may buy from the ad exchange, or they may buy from the ad network as well, right? So you can see that the overall ecosystem has become fairly complicated, And I have provided you a YouTube link which summarizes this ecosystem for you. So in this part of the lecture,